IVM.
This is Storytellers and Story Sellers live on tape. You're listening to Vineet Kanabar on the IVM Podcast Network. On some parts of the internet, Barkha Singh is queen. She's an actor with great range and comic timing, and she's so much more to her adoring fans. She's an animal lover, a travel enthusiast, and someone who exudes a vibrance and positivity, at least from her Instagram every day and from herself. She seems like someone who's always on the go, and to me, again, matter of opinion, she seems like one of those rare set of youth icons who's built a dedicated, credible following on the back of a diverse body of work and a very well-rounded personal brand. So many claimants to this epithet of influencer. Barkha is one of those bona fide stars born for the internet. On this episode, I'm talking to Barkha Singh. I'm so glad she's joining us on this episode to talk about how to stay positive, authentic, and original on the internet in a time where influencers are taking center stage in our culture. Barkha, welcome to Storytellers and Story Sellers. It is great to have you. We had a couple of false starts in setting this up, but now we're here and very excited to have you on the show.
Likewise. Hi, Vineet.
Hi.
Also, thanks for the amazing introduction. I think I'm going to record this and send it to everyone who asks for an introduction or bio data or something. That was so well put. Thank you.
Hey, what do you know? We are recording this.
Perfect. So send it to me. Send it to me when this episode goes live and I can use it because I think it's going to come in handy.
I'm glad you like that introduction. And again, most of it is true to me from what I've known of you and your work.
Right.
I've seen the comments on videos that Barkha Singh is in, and that's it. That's where the truth of all of this lies. So thank you. I'm glad you like it. So good to have you on. It's always great to talk to someone who's bright and positive, but yet seems like there's a fair bit of grounding. And I think my listeners are going to have a lot of fun and a lot of gyan also from you. I hope a little bit at least.
Gyan is always fun to give.
Absolutely. So getting right into it, man. I want to get started by talking about a few years ago and now, and I'm sure you get asked this at a lot of places at a lot of times. But you were at MTV, you were doing TV shows, and then you made sort of a switch over to digital. If I'm sort of understanding this right?
Right.
Walk us through how that decision for you at that time, right? And this is again when the internet was exploding and YouTube was happening and all of that was happening. Just walk us through what your thoughts were around that time and how that came about for you.
Cool. So to do this, let's go behind a little bit, maybe a couple of years before MTV happened. That's where I started my journey. So ever since I was a child, I was always really, really out there. So I always did a couple of TV commercials or really random ads twice a year or once a year or something, just out of hobby. And I started acting full time, obviously, only after I graduated and finished my education. And at that time, I remember I was offered a television show. Now, this is your GEC, General Entertainment Channel television shows. So I was a Bahu. Right after college, I graduated from Xavier's, I went to Berkeley, and then I was a Bahu. So
what year was this?
How my graph was. This was 2014 or 15. End 14, 15.
Right.
Yeah, so that's when I was this 21-year-old Bahu. And that's where I started acting professionally full time. And
I'm really tempted to ask you, how did you prepare for that role? But I'm not going to. Please go on.
Yeah, let's not. But I will address that in this story. I'll make it quick.
Yes, please.
So, very honestly, I did not relate to it at all. But the reason I took it up is because we're all slightly money-minded as soon as we get out of college and finish studying.
Oh, for
because
sure.
we all are, okay, at least for me, I was I want to be rich. I want to be rich now. So, and television is something that pays you. Yeah, it pays you. It pays you well. It's a steady source of income. And so right after college, any amount of money is a big amount of money. So I was you know what, let's do it. No job is going to pay me so much. And I started acting full time and I did two shows. Yeah, YOLO. Exactly, Vineet. YOLO. So I started doing it, but I did it like, so firstly, it was really weird. And in fact, I mentioned this in the ISEC conference where we met also. I don't know why, but there was a lot of judgment that was passed at that time. Like, I was actually told ki aap Chinese lagte ho. I have no idea why, but yeah, exactly. So there were things like that, but still I was like, you know what? It's everyone's opinion. Let's continue. I still tried till one fine day. I just woke up in the morning and I was like, I am not happy. Like, this is not what I want to do. And between these two shows, Girls on Top happened, which was the MTV show. Right. So I did a GEC show first, and then I did a youth-based MTV show called Girls on Top, which was super fun. Really light, a lot more relatable in terms of the script, interactions, even the way I looked. I related to it a lot more. And that show got over, Girls on Top got over, and I went back to GEC because I got offered another show. And that is when I had this realization, because I got a taste of the other side. Yeah. And I was just like, no, I started feeling depressed. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, it was a struggle to get out of the bed in the morning to go on set, because I knew that for the next 12 to 14 hours, I'm going to be in a world that's so alien to me and my sensibilities. And I was just like, okay, fine. So
such a relief.
It was. I was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I reached set. I called my producer. I spoke to her/him. And this whole thing happened, and I left the show midway. Like, it was that bad. Like, I was just like, I don't mind sitting at home, but I'm leaving. I can't do this. I had no plan B. I had no idea what I'm going to do after this, but I was just like, screw this. I can't do this. Obviously, no producer is going to let you go from the middle of a show very happily. So she was really upset. Like, the parting words were, I'll make sure no one casts you in television again. Oh, and I was, of course. So I was just like, you know what? It's okay. If that's what it is, that's what it is. But I personally, I cannot continue to do this anymore. So that's it. That's where my journey with television ended in terms of serials. And I started looking for, and this is it, just when TVF was becoming big and filter copy was coming up. And a lot of this, as you said, there was like this boom in the digital space and digital content, which people were actually liking, and good quality content. So that's where I wanted to get into. So I started, trying to get to know more people in that field, and reached out to a few of my actor friends who already, were in the field. And this is something I always say, that at the end of the day, and I've learned this from personal experience, you're on your own. No matter how many friends you have, no matter how close your friends are, when it comes to work, Vinny, trust me, no one really helps you. And I hate sounding pessimistic about it. I really hate sounding pessimistic about it and being like, oh, the world sucks and no one helps. But that is kind of true. And I think the earlier we accept it, the more prepared we are to deal with things.
I'm just going to interrupt you to say two things. Number one, hey, we promised not to get too philosophical on this. And two, I think what you're saying is right. I mean, apart from that, it is Atmanirbhar at the end of the day. Right? So,
absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far to say nobody helps you. I'm sure there are a lot of people who look out for you, and I'm sure they help you. But it is, at the end of the day, you have to look out for number one. So I totally relate to that. Let me bring in a couple of things here, though. So I love the way you put it, the sort of blunt honesty with which you said, "Yaar, maine kiya wo," and it didn't feel like what I wanted.
Mujhse na ho paya.
And I started looking for things that would relate to me more, and be more closer to who you are as a person, saying roles that, and all of this happened at a time when it was really coming together, right? YouTube in India, TVF, Hotstar at that time, lots of places sort of really making digital content viable, right? To me, there's one more shift that happened along with that, and I think your trajectory in terms of your profile and growth trajectory in the past few years, I think epitomizes that shift, that second shift also, right? So while this digital content shift was happening, there was this other Instagram shift also happening.
Oh, yes.
Right? So if you look at it as like two curves going up, to me, you're one of those people who was riding both curves in a sort of way, right?
Actually, 1 foot on each curve, literally.
Right? So how is that? And I mean, how did you start realizing that was happening? How did you start balancing this out? And I want to talk about this more later, but I think quickly, if you can tell us when that realization also started happening, the Instagram shift and the growth
Instagram. So that happened actually when I was shooting MTV Girls on Top, because it's more of a youth-centric channel and the show was also more youth-centric, that's when I saw a rise in my Instagram profile. So that's, in fact, 2016, around 2015 or 2016 is when I started Instagram. I've not even been on Instagram for too long.
Right.
And I made my profile, and that's when I noticed a spike in my social media handles after I did Girls on Top. And I realized, I was like, you know what? Hey, I can make something out of this. I can do something out of this. Now, again, this is something we're saying that happened in 2016. So that's still 4 years ago.
Yeah, still 4 years.
There was no concept of influencers in inverted commas, and I hate that word. We'll come to that another time. But there was no concept of influencer marketing and promoting brands through your profile. Like probably brands just gave you like, hey, here, I'll give you a shoe. Why don't you just put up a photo of you wearing that shoe? So that's what happened. So to answer your question, Girls on Top is when I saw a spike in my social media handles. And that coupled with me leaving, after a few months leaving television, and then while I was trying to build contacts in the digital world, I had a lot of free time. I sat at home for 6 to 8 months with no work. And at that time, this is the time I had to develop my Instagram profile. So that's how both of them kind of simultaneously happened over the course of a year.
That's very interesting. I'll come back to your Instagram profile in a second. Let me zoom out a little bit again and ask you this, right? TV, some ads. I think you've done some film as well, digital, Instagram. So this is like a massive creative portfolio, right? If I were to look at it like an actor's portfolio or an on-screen performer's portfolio, right? Walk us through a couple of incidences or a couple of stories where you started to realize how you will select projects or ideas or concepts and try and slot them into these 3 or 4 different places, right? How do you approach that? And again, I want my listeners to kind of give it a thought, because you're someone who's got 1 million plus followers on Instagram, right? And that's like having your own network in your pocket. So that programming decision often becomes as important as stuff you might choose to do in your acting. So I want to just see if you can help us understand that sort of a decision for someone who's an on-screen performer.
Got it.
I know.
So let's talk about personal. No, it's okay. I was paying attention. So I think I have your question. Let's talk about personal branding. Okay, so personal branding is very important. So me as a brand, like Barkha Singh is a person, but Barkha Singh is also a brand now. And that is something I consciously built. I'll be honest, this is not something I did initially, because when my social media handle started blowing up, I had no idea what to do with it. I was just like, okay, what do I do now? I don't create content. I just put up photos. So what do I do? So I think for the first 1 year, I was just lost doing everything under the sun. And that's also important in terms of content, because you need to see what works for you. Now, while we're talking about content, even along the acting front, I started taking up only those projects and even auditioning only for those projects that were in line with the brand identity I had for myself. So I have always steered clear of things that are very sexual, or not even sexual, something that's very bold, or, that's just because I wanted to create my brand identity as like a girl next door. Someone who's not very glam, that you can't relate to her, at the same time has a little bit of an aspirational value. So this is like a lot of thought went down into like visualizing what I want to be over the next few years and what I'm working towards. So yeah, I think that's how, just using that as a center point, that's how I decided what acting jobs to take on and what content to create and what brands to work with.
So let me ask you 2 follow-ups to that, right? First is, how do you feel now when you look at your Instagram from the time when you weren't actively sort of curating?
I'm not even lying. I swear I cringe over more than half of my posts 3 years ago because it was, as I said, it was all over the place. So now there's something called Instagram aesthetics that are really, really important. People don't realize how important it is, because that's the first glance of your profile. So individual posts obviously need to be really good, but all of those posts put together also need to look good. They need to follow a color theme. And some photos are predominantly black and some photos are predominantly white. So now you need to take a pick, what kind, because you can't use both in your profile because it looks very not clean.
Now,
so what I do is
my Instagram profile, and I'm like, oh shit, did I think about all these or not? But no, please go on. This is beautiful. Please.
So what and this is actually something someone really close to me pointed out who's not even in the field. He's in finance, and he was like, yo, you know what? I think this is happening to your profile, which is not making it look very good. How about you try to do this? And that just made so much sense to me. So then I started, even the content that I created, I started creating things that are more light, airy, bright, more of salmons, more of white, more of, light colors as opposed to more like lots of blacks and all. And I think it's just like this ongoing process that you consciously pay attention to over a period of time, and the end result will be a good looking feed. So it's not something that you can achieve overnight. I think it's just like a practice that you need to do over a period of time, and then you'll just see it. I mean, it's an obvious outcome.
I think what's important is that your aesthetic needs to be authentic to your personality as well, right? Like you mentioned.
Absolutely.
Right. It can't be curated independently of who the rest of you or your brand is, which brings me to my second follow-up, right? You talked about building this brand or curating this brand, right? And a lot of people understand how to do that. It's easy to sort of ascribe values, talk about the right things or say the right or feel or look the right part, etc. But very few people tend to get it right in an authentic, understated, not in your face, a manner that becomes alluring, right? That starts being called someone's aesthetic.
Right.
So while you were building this, right? And I think I'm sure you've thought it through, so you'll have something brilliant to say. No pressure. But how did you ensure that the authenticity of who Barkha Singh the person is comes through in the brand that you're curating for yourself? What were the conscious decisions that went into it, and how was that built in? Like, I know travel is important to you, right? I know pets are important to you as well, right? And again, many people choose not to make it part of who their brand is, so to speak, right? But I think it lends such a beautiful authenticity to yours. So how did that come about? How did you ensure that authenticity was retained?
I think the trick is to make sure that the brand you're creating for yourself is as close to the person you are. I did say that Barkha as a person is different and Barkha as a brand is different. But they're not very different. Like, Barkha as a person deeply cares about animal welfare, and that's why I'm so vocal about it on my social media handles. So there are two ways of going about this, or rather two steps in which I personally went about it. First, I identified that what are the main things I stand for? What are the things that are most important in my life? Those were going to be a part of the brand Barkha. Okay. Now, the other trick to do is that you don't bombard your brand with everything altogether, because you're never going to be able to do justice to anything. So what I personally did was just introduce each of these aspects of my life as a person slowly and one by one. Right. So if you notice, it was initially when I just started out on my social media journey, it was very focused on my acting jobs. It was very focused on just portrait photos and Barkha as an actor. Okay. After that is when I started slowly getting into my travels, because again, creating travel content and monetizing it is something that doesn't happen overnight. Because I liked traveling and because I kept traveling, on personal trips as well, I just kept filming stuff and putting it up. And that's how, and then obviously the different tourism boards of different countries got on board and we started creating content together and all of that. So that's how another aspect got introduced to my social media presence. Along this, now, this third phase that I feel I'm in the fourth phase now. Right. The third phase, which I feel I recently just kind of completed or culminated, was when I started very, very actively and vocally talking about animal welfare and the environment in general. Because, okay, now you also need to see that the topics you talk about should be backed by your credibility online and as a person. Absolutely. If people don't know me, like Barkha 3 years ago that people didn't know, if she was talking about animal welfare and environmental issues, I probably wouldn't have that big of an audience to make a sizable impact, and to be taken seriously. So what I did was worked towards making myself a credible source of information or someone who people, take seriously. And that's when I started talking about things that are important to me. So to cut it short, like to just summarize that, one, you need to just make sure that your brand is close to who you are. And two, do it step by step, because it's never fruitful to just throw everything together like a khichdi, because it'll become a khichdi. Yeah.
I think you put it very nicely. First of all, I never want my guests to cut it short, so please go. It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I think you put it very nicely, right? First of all, you have elements of your own personality become part of what you're doing, right? Because you can't come off as fake. I think that's a big problem that people have with,
and people see through it. Yeah, people are damn smart now. You can't put up a face, for so long and people don't see through it. People see through it like that.
Absolutely. The second thing that you said was building credibility or building authority. I think a lot of people tend to forget that others are not as keenly invested in your personality. They need time to get used to it and understand that you truly, genuinely feel as deeply about it. They may not get it on day one, but they will get it on day 90, or they will get it on day 150. I think it's beautifully put. I want to spend another couple of minutes talking about your work with animals. I'm a massive animal lover in general. I've had, some 8-9 dogs. I have here. I have a dog back home. So I love animals, and
the best kind of people.
Absolutely. I would have lost my mind. Me and my wife both would have lost our collective minds if we didn't have our cats with us. Right? They're there, like animals generally, massive comfort for people in general, and it's sometimes terrible the things that we end up doing to them, or at least people tend to do to them. Right? And I love the fact that you stand up for it. Right from the outset, right? The first time we met, that I said, I heard you talk about the environment as well. Tell us how you got interested in something like this. What inspired you to talk about it, and how did you educate yourself about it?
So I think firstly, it's in my genes. And this is something I've never really spoken about publicly too much, but ancestrally, I come from the Bishnoi community, and Bishnoi community are the ones who initiated the Chipko movement.
Oh, right.
So I think a part of it is in my genes. I think just this whole love for the nature and environment and animals, because Bishnoi women also breastfeed, often animal offspring. They're that level crazy.
Wow, I did not know that at all.
Yeah, they do. That's so insane, say if they have a goat and the goat dies, so the Bishnoi woman would nurse the offspring. So they're that connected to the environment. In fact, Bishnoi means beast and no, 29 commandments relating to the environment.
Wow, that's very interesting, man. That's superb to know that. I did not know that at all. So clearly, it's in your genes. It's something that's in the DNA. But how did you
exactly? And so my parents, both my parents are also ardent animal lovers. So it's something that I have grown up with. Ever since I was born, I've been around dogs and cats and horses and a lot of animals. So I feel, again, that's something I was just my socialization process happened around animals, very close to the environment. And all of that. And then obviously when I wanted to so this is my love for animals, but I wanted to do something about animals. So how did I gain information and educate myself about that? I think I just did a lot of reading, and more than reading, I visited a lot of animal shelters, because that's where you actually get to know the ground realities of what the situation is. Because at the end of the day, I also wanted to do something that I know I'll be able to make a difference in. So as much as I would love to help or the tiger population, or saving, a certain kind of big cat species in the African subcontinent or something. But what I can truly at this point of my life, at this stage of my life, help is in my city or in my country. That's what I feel I can do. And that's where I felt. Now, awareness is the first step towards doing anything. So I had to be aware myself. And once I became aware myself that I can talk to people about it, that's where I started using my social media handles to pump out information, to pump out animal support organizations, and just to put out information, because if people know about it, that's when they'll be able to act about it. If you don't know something, it's not a reality for you and you won't act on it. So that's why I think my main goal through my social media handles is obviously to generate revenue for a lot of different causes relating to animal welfare, but also to educate the people. So what I do very often is just keep on, especially during the lockdown now, the situation that we're in, there's a list of a lot of doctors and veterinary doctors who are working, and different organizations, ambulances who are working towards animal welfare. So even if, say, you are a part of my audience and you happen to see my story, even if you're not an animal lover, at least you're human. You will remember that, okay, fine, you know what, this is the list of someone. So in case if I see an injured animal, I can at least make a call to the ambulance person. Absolutely. So that is the goal. So how I educated myself, as you said, is just talking to more and more and more and more and more and more and more people. And I'm still educating myself every single day when it comes to this, because it's that important. And I think it's really important. In fact, yesterday itself, I had put up a story where a very common attitude when it comes to animal welfare or helping not just an animal, maybe another human, is also that someone will do it. Especially animals, like, you know, when you're crossing, when you're driving by and you see an injured dog on the side of the road, you feel bad, but you're like, okay, I have to go now. Someone will help the dog, I'm sure. But we can't always do that, because sometimes we need to be that someone who's going to stop, help the dog. So I think just this trying to cultivate this whole attitude of being that someone is another thing that I've really been trying.
I think it's a responsibility that all of us should take up more. And I love the passion with which you talked about the importance of doing that, right? I mean, I'm one of those people who, if I see a cat on a street, if I'm driving in a car, I will stop the car, open the door and pet the cat. So I'm...
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, that it just feels like it, man. They're the most lovely things. And I think anybody around, whether you have a pet or you don't, should at least educate yourself to know what are the emergency numbers to call if you see an injured animal. That's the that you can do, right?
Yes.
I mean, while we were in lockdown, I started feeding some of the crows that come out on my windows. We just took like a fistful of cat kibble and give it out to the crows. And this one evening, one of the crows injured itself outside, and all the crows around just started cawing so loudly, right? And they continued to cow till my wife went down and called like a vet, called one of those animal rescue guys. And, but luckily it sort of fixed itself and went along. But animals care for themselves, and it's such a natural instinct that we feel as well. So yeah, I mean, I love the passion with which you talked about it.
But like, I'm like you, even if I'm in a hurry, but if I see this really, like, I find all indie dogs, or commonly known as stray dogs, super cute. I think they're the cutest.
Right.
So like, I don't think I can ever walk by a dog and if it's looking at me and if we make that eye contact, I have to touch it. And I've been bitten so many times. I've got 6 rounds of rabies shots.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so like 30 rabies injections in total, because I'm that crazy. And like, it was really funny because I've been bitten 7 times, but at the 3rd and the 4th time was with such short interval that the vaccination I got then continued.
Oh man. There are downsides. I'm not saying there aren't downsides, but it's worth it, like you said.
It's worth it. I mean, and the reason I probably shouldn't be talking about it to like, I don't want to scare people off, but I'm just saying that, hey, I'm still living. I don't have I'm not dead, but I've made a difference to so many animals. So like, it's okay. Like, it's cool. It's like, it's occupational hazards. That's it. That's what we'll call it.
That's a nice, slightly morbid way of putting it, but nice nonetheless. Let me ask you this, right? I mean, we talked about animals. The other thing that I see a lot on your feed is about your travel. And again, our mutual friend Ankit Panikar also kept telling me about, you please talk to her about travel when she's on as well. So how do you... Again, it's one of those things that I'm sure you as a person have loved even before you got into acting or on-screen stuff, right? Where's that passion from, and how do you sort of translate that onto what you do on Instagram? What is your sort of content travel inspo cheat sheet?
Content travel inspo cheat sheet. Can you care to explain what that is?
I mean, how do you? So it's very easy, right? I mean, a lot of people travel is such a sort of buzzword, right? All young people traveling, costs have come down, but There's a certain feel when you create travel content, right? It's about visiting a place through an influencer's eyes, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
So how do you keep that fresh and going? I mean, I can put up a travel photo, but Barkha's travel photo is Barkha's travel photo. So how do you keep that inspiration going? What do your fans like to see, and how do you mix it up? That's what content travel inspo cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet me. Thank you. Got it. Learned. I think again, my travel content always reflects what I'm truly interested in. So, fun fact. Every time I travel, people travel for certain things. Someone travels for the gadgets, someone travels for food, someone travels to probably do something. For me, I travel for coffee. So every coffee...
Hard relate.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Coffee and cafes.
Yeah.
Because I personally feel that, the best way to get to know a city or whatever region you're in is to just spend your first day at a coffee shop, at a local coffee shop. And you will know everything about it. You'll know the culture of the people. You'll know how fast-paced / slow-paced the place is. You'll know how people are, how friendly they are, how much they work, how lazy they are, what's happening, everything. So the point, the reason I'm saying this is because in my content, I keep a mix between touristy stuff,
right,
and very, very offbeat local things that you will never find online or on different blogs or on travel shows and all of that. You'll never see these things because these are quirky things that you get to see only when you're down and dirty in that place. And obviously you also need to do, so when I go to Paris, if I don't cover the Eiffel Tower, my audience will feel cheated. They'll just be like, "Arey, but cool. I saw this cafe. I saw this really cool underground music scene. I saw this, but I also want to see Eiffel Tower."
You have to play the hits.
Exactly. So, and even I would want to see the Eiffel Tower because it's that iconic. I mean, so yeah, I think the trick is just to have a combination of both commercial and touristy things as well as completely offbeat things, and making sure those offbeat things that I'm interested in, because only then I'll be able to do justice. So I always cover a big part of shopping in a lot of my travel content. I always cover bucket list items. So I'm someone who, I think for the longest time, my life mantra was YOLO. Okay, like now it is you need to live in the present. But a little before...
You need to live in the present is a lot more fun though.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mindfulness,
consciousness, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was younger, it was just YOLO, right? So I've done everything, right? From using my tuition money in US to pay for my skydiving courses or randomly.
There's a skydiving course? Wow, amazing shit, dude.
Yeah, I got a license. I got a license as a skydiver. Yeah, so things like that. So these really crazy, quirky, batshit crazy things are also always a part of my travel content because that's who I am. Recently, in fact, to give you an example, I traveled to this place called Rovaniemi, which is in Finland.
Okay.
And
say that again?
Rovaniemi.
Nice.
Rovaniemi, Rovaniemi.
Got it.
It's in the northern part of Finland. Super interesting place because the Arctic Circle crosses right in the middle of the city. Beautiful. So you're literally standing here, you're not in the poles, and here you're in the polar region. So it's crazy. Anywho, so I was there and we just had this really big meal of this vegetarian burger because I'm vegetarian. And the locals there, they love jumping into frigid waters and then running to the sauna and then jumping into an Arctic river again and then go to the sauna again. And that is something I did. It was, I think the water still had ice floating on it and we jumped into it wearing a swimsuit and then we ran about 100 meters into the sauna, which was a good 45 to 50 degrees. And then we sat in there for a bit and then we went running again and jumped into the frigid water. And then again we went running and back into the sauna. And all this was covered in my vlog. So there's batshit crazy things like this that people also like and appreciate because they feel, and a very common feedback I've got for my travel content is I felt like I was there with you.
Lovely.
So I never do retakes and all. It's just a tiny camera I use and I just cover everything.
Beautiful, man. I mean, obviously the batshit craziness of doing that is not lost on me, but it's amazing that you find this balance. I mean, I have a question and a comment, but the question has kind of slipped my mind because right now I'm thinking itni thandi or itna garam. But I have a comment, right? I think when you were talking about your Instagram feed, it felt like a director talking about their body of work. when they're saying, I will do something for the mainstream and then do something for myself to ensure it's authentic and has that connect. So very interesting to see that that also come through, right? I mean, it always strikes me when I talk to creators who put a lot of thought into what they do, that whatever is happening is also, whatever is put out or whatever you're creating is also a lot of clarity, a lot of planning, a fair bit of research on your part as well. Because I mean, I love traveling, right? I love traveling for the same reasons as anybody else does, right? Coffee shopping and getting drunk, right? What else is there?
Right. And meeting people, exactly.
And meeting people, of course. Coffee is like meeting people, of course. But for me, I don't have to think that much, right? Because I'm going to go on a trip and that trip is mine and mine alone. But so many people around the country on the internet are looking to you for that inspiration. And so it has to be that much more thought through. It has to be that much more interesting. So I love the way that you put it out there. I think sort of just about bring this episode to a nice, neat end. I want to talk to you about what your thoughts are about influencing people in general, right, of having that power. Oh, sure.
Before that, if I may, yes, absolutely, I do want to add something about the whole travel aspect.
Sure.
One, also in my content, it's really important to not be monotonous.
Right.
So it's really easy because I'm the same person creating my travel videos in Goa, in Gokarna, in Paris, in Spain, in Australia. It's the same person. So I need to make sure that the flavor is different. How do I do that? By working with local photographers. So I never travel with my own team of photographers. I only travel with my videographer. But I make it a point to work. So if I'm traveling to France to a particular, say to Nice, I am going to hire a photographer from Nice, not even Paris.
Right.
So I think that's another way to bring out the local culture and the local vibe of the place, because who better to tell a story about the place than a person living there, right?
Absolutely.
So one, that, and two, also I always throw in bloopers, because I think that's what makes people connect to the thing, because it's very not easy. Okay, actually that's a lot of effort, but I don't want to make it like, hey, I wore this designer dress and I'm standing in front of the Eiffel Tower and here, look at my photo, like it, it's pretty. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I want people to laugh with me. I want people to feel amazed. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think,
go beyond just the visual voyeurism, right? Oh, somebody there, double tap and done. It has to be open the comment and read it. I mean, that's how I would feel, right? I mean, if you're a creator who's talking about your travel plan, you would expect people not just to see the picture, but read the comment, engage with you, understand what you're trying to say. And that comes through, right?
Absolutely. And a new trend which I am seeing in social media in general is value-driven content.
Right.
Because now so many more people are opened to this world of social media, which means you're exposed to a lot more things. You're exposed to a lot more point of views with which you make your own point of view. And when you have a point of view, you're more woke. So now when you're conscious, you're smart, you're woke as a consumer of content, you will always look for value in a content. Otherwise, that content is not something that's going to interest you. Absolutely. So even say comedians, why a lot of people don't like slapstick comedy? Because it has no value to them. Why do we watch people like Dave Chappelle and people who actually are smart, witty, even though they're dark, even though it's like really dark humor, but it's still talking about current issues. It's talking
Do you
about...
like Nanette? Hannah Gadsby? Have you seen Nanette?
No, I've not.
Oh, please watch Nanette and Douglas, the two shows by this Australian comic.
Okay.
And if you like value-driven stuff,
yes.
Oh my God, beautiful stuff. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think people have started to look for more than just a time-killing fix, or more than just scrolling through, right? So, and I think that's a good place to be for us as a culture, right? Which kind of neatly ties into what I wanted to sort of ask you, like I mentioned, it's about influencing people, right? In this day and age, massive debate about the price of celebrity, about what it means to be, about what the influence that people have, about how some influencers are using influence badly to get free stuff. Some people are, on the other hand, there is this entire culture that is so minutely examining everything, right? So there are strange beauty standards and thousands or hundreds of other sort of commentaries and problems, right? In this entire space, how do you retain and maintain the positivity that you do, right? It's something that I've noticed comes across in everything that you do. And second is, how do you ensure that your point of view remains balanced? It remains something that is not controversial for the sake of it, but balanced, right? So that it's a positive and balanced sort of influence that you have on people.
Right.
Again, very short question.
Thanks for the short question. So I think I look at it in a way that what you feel within is what you project outside. So your behavior is always a projection of your internal struggles and what you're feeling inside. So the first step, and also we need to keep in mind that being an influencer, I personally prefer the term content creator because I don't know, in my head, I might be wrong, but in my head, somewhere at the back of my head, influencer has almost become like a negative word because of the different ideas attached to it in public opinion. You know, but anyway,
I agree with you. I prefer
let's
calling it creator as well. I completely
exactly agree. So like when someone asks me, I always say I'm a creator, I'm an actor, I'm an activist. I'm not a influencer. That's what. But anywho, the point is that whether you're an influencer, whether you're a content creator, whatever you do, when you're reaching out to so many people, it comes with a big responsibility. So you need to know who you're reaching out to. Like me personally, my audience is also, a large part of my audience is college going kids. Right. So I can't possibly be talking about things that are very, very hard hitting or, thing. But at the same time, and I can't shy away from things like depression or from things like mental health or from things like, like running away from home. And like I do address these issues as well in my live sessions. So I think, it's just you need to be responsible. And when we're talking about positivity, again, I think you just need to feel good inside. So it's a daily struggle, not struggle, but it's a daily, what's that effort. Word? It's a daily effort for me, to make sure that I become better and happier as a person. This is something that I do as a person, as Barkha, because I know that if I feel good within, only then I'll be able to make those 1.5 million people also feel good through my content. Because if I'm not feeling good inside, if I'm not working on myself and my whole consciousness being clean and like untouched and zen, that's something that I need to work on to be able to exude that positivity outside. And that's what brings us to this whole idea that we were discussing some time back about being conscious, about being present. Because that's how you're going to be happy if you're living in the present moment as opposed to spending time thinking about the past or future, which you have absolutely no control over. So I think just staying true to yourself and having these basic things that we all know, but just following them and being conscious of these things lets you become a more responsible content creator that's reaching out to a lot more people is what I feel. And again, the whole, this again brings us back to the value aspect of it that in fact, I don't even think people consciously know this yet. That say a simple layman, someone who's probably in some other industry doing something and just spends half an hour every day on Instagram. That's it. Like he's not even an Instagrammer. Probably that person doesn't know it yet, but that person is unconsciously looking for value. So this is not something that's like an established fact or something. This is something that you and I are just speculating.
Subliminal,
exactly.
Subcontext. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So I think as a content creator, I personally, A, try to be happy within, B, try to be responsible in what I'm communicating, but at the same time communicating it in a way that will reach my audience in the way I wanted to reach them. Yeah. Because as I said,
not like moralizing, it has to be engaging. It needs to start a conversation.
Exactly.
And of course, I think that's just a beautiful way of putting it. While you were talking, I'm sorry I interrupted. While you were talking, a thought came into my head. It's something that Anthony Bourdain, the patron saint of travel, talked about. Right? He said there is this guy inside you, right, who all he wants to do is sit at home, get stoned, gossip, chill, do nothing, right? And
Yeah.
it is a constant daily struggle to overcome that guy, not just in wanting to do more, but wanting to do better, right? And I'm obviously paraphrasing. Bodin obviously has better words than I do. But yeah, that really comes through, and often I sometimes think about how you do things, and you talked about getting the simple basics right and doing them every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I talk about this, either among my friends or in the workplace, I ask myself whether I'm stating the obvious. But then when I hear someone like you say it, I'm like, I can't be all wrong. So thank you for that. That validation also helps. But I think you hit it absolutely on the head with that. Yeah, that responsibility is something that has to come from practicing. Can you tell us a couple of stories about? I'm sure
Yeah.
your fans reach out to you and ask you for help, whether it's about mental
Right.
health, whether it's about other problems. Can you tell us about a couple of times when they reached out and you felt like you had to do something and you did? I think would be a lovely way to sort of humanize the influencer, so to speak.
Right. Right. So before I actually tell you a story, it's I also want to mention that it's not wrong showing your vulnerable side on your profiles. You don't need to get really personal with your life stories that, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me and this is why he broke up with me and now this is what I'm going to do. But also just to open up about the fact that, hey, you know what? I got dumped and it's fine. All of us get dumped. So something as simple as that, where, because when we are content creators, we just feel that no, I have to show my best side online. I have to show only the good side of my life. But I think it's also a responsible thing to show the not so good side of your life, so people know that everyone goes through this, and like there are no unrealistic aspirations set, because again, you can't set. Gone are the days when you get away by setting unrealistic aspirations. You can't do that anymore.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and in fact, getting back, there's this one girl on Instagram. Her name is Twinkle. She is based out of Delhi, and randomly started talking to her. I've never met her. I've never heard her voice. I don't know who she is, but she is an ardent animal supporter, and like she loves animals, and she does a lot for animals in Delhi and as far as Meerut. Where and other cities, neighboring cities, where there's not a good facility for animal welfare. So I remember once she just reached out to me saying that, hey, can you help me, just put out a story because I need to raise funds for this particular case or whatever.
Right.
And I saw, and I didn't know her at first, right? So it could be among the hundreds of other messages that I get. People are just, because not all of them are true, just saying. So, so I was like, okay, hey Twinkle, this looks good. Why don't you show me, the veterinary doctor's or the medical certificate, or if you said you've done an X-ray, why don't you show me the X-ray results? I'm sorry, I'm asking you this, but I really need to verify before I ask people to put their money and all of that. And in fact, she is someone who has almost we talk very often now, because she's we're these partners who are trying to make the world a better place for animals and shit. So I think that's very sweet that I was able to connect with someone without knowing who they are, without knowing anything about them, but just connecting on both our love for animals. So that's one time I connected. And also, yeah, there have been a lot of times. In fact, when I was shooting for Engineering Girls, we were shooting in Sharda University, which is again college, where a lot of kids who were already following us and everything, and they were there and they'd stand outside because they weren't allowed in the premises because of sound issues and all while shooting. So they'd stand outside and wait. And we were shooting for a good 3 weeks or something for Engineering Girls. This is season 2. There was this one girl, I think she was in first year. She looked really young. And she'd stand every single day. I'm not even lying. She was there every single day. And she was really tiny with really long, gorgeous hair. So she was hard to miss, basically. It's not that I was mixing two girls and all of that.
Right.
And one fine day I was just looking at her and she was just looking at me, and it was the same thing, that eye contact that happened. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, I have to talk to her. I've been seeing her coming and just sitting and watching the shot every single day. And I went and spoke to her and whatever we spoke, and then randomly she started crying. I was like, shit, I'm sorry. Did I do something? Did I say something? She was just like, I'm just overwhelmed.
Oh,
Like
man,
every day I
so
woke up in the
sweet.
morning thinking कि हाँ मैं आऊंगी या shooting देखूंगी, project करूंगी, काम करूंगी, पढ़ाई करूंगी, and I'll sleep. I didn't think you're gonna come and talk to me.
How sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like I actually have goosebumps even when I'm saying this just now. So I think just like these may not be like stories that actually are like ooh crazy, but these are just like small things that have touched me in my interactions with people randomly.
That's lovely. Shout out to Twinkle from New Delhi for all the good stuff that she's doing for animals up there.
Yes.
And to the little tiny girl with nice hair.
Yeah.
Good things do happen, man. All you have to do is believe.
Absolutely.
Loved it, yeah. But a great little nugget of how it is also so rewarding, I'm sure, to be inspiring so many young people around the world. Let me ask you this before I let you go, right?
Sure.
It's pretty much sort of the culmination of what we've been talking about, right? When young people come up to you and talk to you about their ideals and about the stuff that they want to do, right? Some might be concerned about climate change. We talked about animal rights. Could be any of the other hundreds of issues or hundreds of things that come up and that are important to people, right? How do you advise them? What do you ask them to do if they come and ask you what is it that they can do?
Very honestly, I think, again, with giving advice is something that you need to see the age of the person. So if a college kid is coming and asking me, I put myself in their place. So I look that, okay, if I am a college student, what could I possibly do in this situation, given my capabilities and my reach at this time? What would I possibly do? And that's how you advise someone when it comes to something they're passionate about. So a lot of people come and ask me how to become a travel content creator. Even I want to become a travel content creator. How can I make a living out of it? This is probably the most asked question.
Right.
That, how do we do this? And the only thing I tell everyone, and that is a fact, and that's how even I personally did it, is just by creating content. You create content left, right, center, you put it up. Because if you don't do that, you'll never go to the next step. There's no guarantee that you will become a successful travel content creator. But if you don't do this, I guarantee that you won't become.
Right.
So, instead of giving gyan and telling people what to do, I prefer just laying out this situation in front of them and being like, "Acha, abhi tum decide karo, maine ye kiya tha." Like anything, whether it's about, their struggles with their parents or something relating to studies or some career choices or what college to go to. Like a lot of young kids also come and tell me that my parents are pressurizing me to take science, but I want to take arts.
Wow.
So
classic.
Exactly. And this is so dangerous because I don't want to be the person telling them parents jo bol rahe hain, jaane do, tumhara dekho. I can't do that. I can't possibly do that. Parents meko kha jayenge.
Yeah. And the blame is like, oh, that Instagram girl told me to do this.
Exactly. So that's an irresponsible thing to do.
Yeah.
So then again, in a situation like this, I would tell the person that, hey, why don't you first figure for yourself why you want to do arts? And if that's convincing enough, why don't you tell your parents about this and try to have a conversation with them instead of saying no. Like if you just go up to them and be like, arts karna hai, obviously they're going to say no. But if you go up to them saying, meko arts karna hai because ye karna hai, this is my plan, this is what I want to do, ye. Dude, they'll never say no. Or even if they say no, then they have a better reason. So I guess, just things like that.
I love it. I think you came at it with empathy. That's what I'm hearing you say is don't just lay out an opinion. Try and see who the person is asking. Very consistent with how you talked about being responsible earlier. So absolutely love it. And a little bit of reaffirmation for me as well. Talking to you and getting the basics absolutely spot on. Barkha, my last question, I promise.
Absolutely. Go for it. I'm loving this. Are you going to ask me a super short question again?
Yeah, no, this one's actually short, I promise.
Oh, okay.
It's a question that I ask all guests. It's the last question, how I wrap up an episode. I want you to give my listeners a recommendation, an entertainment recommendation. Could be anything. A book, a movie, a song, a meme, anything. It could have you in it, could not have you in it. But usually I'd love for you to share something that's close to your heart or something that's made an impact on you.
Absolutely. And I don't even need to give this a thought. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This is a book which has flipped my life 180 degrees. Right. I'm not even lying. enough said. I'm not even going to talk about it too much, but like it's a small book. It's a very easy read. You don't even need to finish the book. You just need to like read a couple of chapters and like, read some now, keep it away, read something else, do your thing, and then come back to it and read it again. But I highly recommend this book for everyone to read because it's so simple. It makes so much sense. And I promise you it's going to flip even if it doesn't flip your life, it will flip your perspective and your way of thinking 180 degree for sure.
Beautiful. With that, I think we have come to the end of this episode. I have had so much fun talking about all the things that you do, Barkha. It's great to always chat with someone who puts a lot of thought into everything that they do, and everything that they do looks and feels great and authentic, and something that you truly enjoy. So glad you could make time. So glad we could sync up and do this. Lovely to have you on the show. I hope you had fun.
Absolutely. In fact, I had so much fun. I had a lot of fun talking about this and also getting to know the way you think about these things. And again, you gave me a lot of validation too. So thank you, Vineet. I love this mutual validation thing that happened over this episode. Love it. And thank you so much for having me. I actually had a lot of fun.
That's so great to hear. With that, we're at the end of another episode. This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. It's been a really, really cool week on the network. We've had Ashwin Sanghi on Cyrus Says. We had Masaba Gupta on Advertising is Dead. You should definitely check out Vivek Lath, who showed up on Storytellers and Story Sellers. A close friend and partner of ours, Karthik Paricha, was on the Pragati podcast talking about the future of podcasting, which I think is really, really interesting. And I would like to ask people to check out All Things Policy and what they've been doing. They've been having some really interesting discussions about India's challenging relationship with China as we go forward, and I think that would be a great thing for you guys to check out. So with that, we hope to see you again next week.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.